Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Fairy Godmother Show. I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist, advocate, and mental health first responder here at Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy and Wellness. So, thank you for coming to the show where you can come as you are and hopefully leave a little more as who you want to be. Do you wish you could more freely enjoy a healthy habit or just get back to being a better you? Well, then let's talk. And although I specialize in working with the LGBTQIA community, I welcome and I work with everyone. So if you need anything, need to talk, need to chat, just need to get everything, something out of your system, I am here for you at whisperingzenhypnotherapy.com or whisperingzen.net, whichever is easier for you to find. So, this is the new and improved and always improving Hypno Fairy Godmother show, where we are on multiple sites. So, wherever you are, hello, and I'm so glad you found me. So, before we get going today, we're going to start the show like we always start the show, where you are in a nice, wonderful, safe place. That's right, nice, wonderful, and safe. So, not driving, working on a project, handling something you're supposed to be handling, nothing like that. You're just in a nice, safe place, which is fabulous. So, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to wiggle your toes, get those toes moving because we got to get some circulation flowing. Get the circulation flowing. Next thing I want you to do is wiggle your butt. Yes, I said wiggle your butt. Squeeze in those cheeks. Come on, come on. Like I said, we're getting circulation flowing, we're getting things moving. And now I want you to take a nice deep breath. Hold it and exhale with a wonderful affirmation. A affirmation like I got this, we're going to do this. It's going to be okay because you know it's going to be okay. You know, sometimes we're just trying to make it through the days. Sometimes we're just trying to make it through the week. In my case, sometimes just trying to make it through the next hour because that's what it's about today. It's about making it through. So if you've got some little bit of extra time, kind of wiggle your legs a little bit, roll that middle. Come on, move the shoulders, roll your neck a little bit. If you can slide it, go, go. You know, because just in this short amount of time, you have now got the circulation going. You've got everything moving. And it's only been a couple minutes. How easy is that? You can do this any time of day. Sometimes you just need to stop and go, okay, been sitting here for too long. My shoulders are up like this. I'm starting to look like a turtle. And I need to bring my shoulders down. And it's a matter of relaxing, unwinding, being more like you. You know, I love doing this show, and I hope you love watching this show or just listening to this show. So, if at any point you decide that you want to become a sponsor, help out, buy me a cup of coffee, whatever, you know, you can contact me at whisperingzenhypnosis.com. You can just, on any social media, just find the Hypno Fairy Godmother because I am there. You can go onto Patreon and help me out at Hypno Fairy Godmother Radio Show. Easy to find. I try to make it easier to find. So I'm just that Hypno Fairy Godmother kind of on everything, which some people are this on this one and this on, I just want to make it easy for you. So this is great. And as you may know, I am a clinical hypnotherapist, which means that people love to talk to me about mental health, maybe what's going on in their lives, how we can relax, how we can, several times a day. Sometimes you just need to check in with yourself. And, you know, I like to consider it as a part of Weeble Kung Fu. And Weeble Kung Fu is when, like those little 60s and 70s toys, they're about this big, they're kind of shaped like an egg. So you can wobble a little this, you gotta go around, but you never fall. You may lean a whole lot to one side, you may lean a whole lot back, but I gotta tell you, you're going to be fine. Weeble Kung Fu is a way of knowing, and it's just a mental way of knowing how no matter how you think things are going, you're going to right yourself. It's kind of the way mindfulness works. Mindfulness works that if you feel yourself starting to slide one way or starting to slide in a different direction, it's getting yourself back to center. It's getting yourself back to where you're going to be okay. Because I know you're going to be okay. That's why I'm here, is to help you be okay. And today's main topic we have talked about before, but it was, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so, and people are doing it more and more now, and I understand why. So I'm going to explain what it is, explain why we do it, and then explain how to get yourself out of it, which is good. So, what we're going to talk about today is doom scrolling or doom surfing, either one of those. And they're terms that refer to the tendency to continue to surf or scroll or however you do it through bad news. You know, Even though the news is sad and disheartening and it's depressing, many people are finding themselves reading continuously about bad news, without the ability to stop or take a step back. So, during times of crisis and uncertainty, many of us pay way more attention to the news than we normally would because we're looking for answers. And this might not surprise a lot of you, which I'm sure it doesn't, but we have to say it. A lot of news right now is really bad. And we keep scrolling. We keep trying to find things. We keep reading article after article and watching news things, and we're unable to turn away from information that depresses us, you know? And the term comes from when you just can't stop scrolling Twitter, Facebook, news feeds that allow and make you sad, anxious, and angry. I mean, we do it all the time. And I've been reading articles from Wired and RD and different things. And think of it this way. This is an easy way for you to think about this. It's 11:30, 12 o'clock, and you're still scrolling. And now it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're still scrolling, and you're thumbing things down and you're going and you're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and you're feeling just horrible. And this has been going on since the beginning of COVID, which is kind of when the first time I discussed this. And, when we feel locked down and we feel like we don't have people that we can talk to, and we don't kind of know what's going on, every day starts to look the same with an endless scrolling of finding all of these things that start to drive us a little crazy, but we do it anyway. And it's just this habit, and we are purveyors of this exercise. This is what we do. And that's why it's known as doom scrolling or doom surfing. Each one of those, you know, following that morbid rabbit hole with content about coronavirus or the thing going on, in the UK with the invasion and with world unrest, and you're scrolling all of these things to the point of actual physical discomfort. And, and with having a phone with you, it's actually now portable. Before, we were doing it, but we would do it with, let's say, a newspaper, or we would just do it online. Got your laptop set up, and eventually you would go, okay, I'm just going to go to bed and I've got to let this rest. Well, we have our phones with us, and there's just something about having it set so, we get to a point to where every time you hear that little ding or you hear that buzz, because sometimes even if we turn off the ringer, we still have notifications coming in. Even though I have the ringer turned off on my phone, I have it to where when I get a notification, my watch buzzes. And so I know that I've got a notification. Sometimes it's just a general, a text message or whatever. Sometimes it's a news story. And I had to kind of curb that because you find yourself almost, it takes over. It starts to take over, and you have to look. You have to look. Your brain can go, it can wait, whatever it is. It can wait until morning. It can totally wait until morning. But then there's that little thing in the back of your head going, now I have to know, now I have to know, now I have to know. And so it totally overtakes you. And it was bad enough when it was just COVID. And then we had a whole time that we still have of civil unrest. And now we have the invasion of Ukraine. And the crisis is in a news cycle of crisis. And it's only gotten more intense, and the constant stream of news and social media, and it never ends. When I was in college and taking journalism classes, they would say a news cycle is usually like about 6 in the morning until maybe 8 o'clock at night, sometimes 9 if it was a really big story. Now it's a 24-hour news cycle. It's just going and going. So you can get so wrapped up that it's not even a thing now. I mean, you don't even realize that you're actually doing it. And, late night scrolling is nothing new. It really isn't. And it's the kind of thing for a while that therapists would often hear couples say when one isn't paying enough attention to the other one. But it used to be like Sunday nights, when you're laying there in bed and you're, going over your armchair quarterbacking, or when Game of Thrones was on, people were discussing, you look for these little tidbits, maybe something that you missed. But now the only thing that people binge watch are, one world collapsing thing and crisis after crisis, unemployment, coronavirus, protesters. It's, the faucet of data just runs nonstop. And there are unlimited seasons. And the promise of answers, or perhaps even good news, always feels like maybe I'm one click away. Maybe I'm really close. But you kind of know that you're not. And right now, we're living in a time when there's no easy solutions. There just isn't. And there's so many conflicting facts. And I put facts in quotes because depending on where you look, depends on the facts. And a lot of us will only look at websites or only belong to groups and things like that agree with what we believe in already. So you're not actually getting maybe every side unless you're connected to international things, which we should all be, because you don't want to get just one side of a thing. But the processing, the cognitive processing of all of this information, and there's no overarching narrative that helps. It only compounds the stress and anxiety that we're already feeling. Do we need something to add to the stress and anxiety we're already feeling? I mean, I like to talk about mental health and the good parts of mental health, things you can do to help you with mental health. And instead, we're kind of sabotaging ourselves, you know? And for years, people have questioned the benefits of things like Twitter and Facebook and, social media as a whole. And if it's responsible, you know, for good mental health or bad mental health. And what people have noticed is that it can actually really lead to the anxiety and the depression. And we don't want that. At the bare minimum, we now have it stuck in our heads that, they call it FOMO, fear of missing out. What if somebody posts something that I really need to know? Well, what could it possibly be that you really need to know? We don't know. That's why we always check. That's why we have our phones on notification. That's why every, first thing you do when you get up in the morning, is it that you just, sit there with your cup of coffee and you just catch up on all your social media? Even sometimes things that your email, if you're connected to certain news sites, you know, um, Washington Post sites, Google News sites, things like that. It's just over and over, or do you get up and you just go, okay, I just need to breathe? I have to tell you, for the most part, I'm guessing that most of us check out our social media. We just do. We're so programmed at this point, and the problem just keeps intensifying itself. You know, in certain situations, we engage in more narrow and immediate, whatever's going on, and we're constantly in fight or flight mode, you know, where we're like scared about what's happening. We don't know what's happening. Combine that with the fact that socially, many of us some people are back, a lot of people are back to work now, but some people are more working one day, they're working like splits. So sometimes you're in the office, sometimes you're not in the office. And for the longest time, we had kind of that social water cooler thing happening, where people would get together and kind of talk about what happened over the weekend or what happened the night before. And we don't have that as much anymore, um, because things have switched up. So, you know, as a result, we don't have the social resources available to us in the same ways. So we tend to rely more on social media. And, you know, the funny thing though is that this doom and gloom isn't all media's fault. I wish we could just blame it on one thing or blame it on one person or one news organization or social media thing. We can't, and we're going through so much of our own stuff and what we may be happening, personally, things that are happening in our households, things are happening in our work, and then you throw all this other thing. So while a lot of what we read and a lot of what we do see in the news is bad, as humans, we have this natural tendency to pay more attention to negative news than positive news. And this shows up with these social media things in their algorithms. And it makes doom scrolling almost inevitable. So we know that when we listen to, a certain type of news or we look things up, that you're going to get more of that in your media. The other day, I was looking for something online, which I do a lot. And I was literally for the next 3 days, I kept getting things that were related to it. And a lot of these things, honestly, had nothing to do with what I was looking for, but it was slightly related. So that the algorithm said she's looking for this. So we're going to bombard her with stuff. So if I'm looking up let's say with the Ukraine situation, if I'm looking up things on that, then the algorithm's going to say that's what she wants to see. Or if I'm getting overly obsessed with COVID numbers, like in my area, then the algorithms are saying this is what she's interested in. So this is what we need to show her. And that's kind of the way they work. Um, and so by doing this doom scrolling or doom surfing can lead to the same long term effects on mental health unless we intervene. You know, we intervene, and the behaviors and the guide of design, the way social media is made up, there are ways that we can use it to improve our mental health and our well being, which is what we want to do. And I know this is hard. I mean, part of the reason why I started thinking about this was because I noticed that one of the things that I tend to do, and I'm sure a lot of us do, is we get totally stuck in a topic and we go down that rabbit hole. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And I noticed that I can be stuck on something for days on end and I can't let it go. And part of that's just my personality. Part of that's, the way my little brain works. But unfortunately, what that's telling the algorithms on my social media is that I want to hear more of it or I want to see more of it. When my brain is saying, stop doing that because you don't want to hear and say that, the algorithms are kind of trying to override. And when we're trying to help out our mental health, we have to, we have to really work at it. And humans have this penchant for seeking out and identifying danger that can give us this natural high, which is why sometimes, like, we want to be scared. Humans enjoy the adrenaline rush of fear. And that's why we ride, roller coasters, or we go to haunted houses at Halloween. We watch scary movies. We get that same rush of adrenaline and fear that can trigger us. And when you're seeking out negative news, it's all part of this. It's all part of that phenomenon because it gets our blood up, and there's a certain thrill, as weird as it is, about reading disaster and reading about bad things that we have no control, but we kind of put ourselves into that situation. And the effects of doom scrolling also vary depending on who's doing it. You know, um, sometimes activists, people that didn't participate in doom scrolling are like, you know, they ask people why they do it. Why do you do it? And, people have said that they can't see themselves being killed over and over again in this tiny little square on your phone. And you're able to participate in it and opt out of it if you want to. Um, but, there's just something about the social media that sucks you right back into it, you know? And the way different people handle it, people in different minority groups handle doom scrolling for different reasons. Some people are actually looking for bad things that happen to other people because it makes them feel better about their situation and it makes them feel better about who they are. And they go, okay, well, things can't be, things aren't that bad for me because horrible things are happening to other people. It's a weird concept, but, people do it. People, feel good about doom scrolling because it helps them dive deep into things that maybe they weren't, um, educated about before. It makes them feel better about things. Maybe they think they can doom scroll because, you know, it helps them know what's going on. And to that end, there can be some upsides to constantly checking in. Social media is helping people stay connected. But like I said, it depends on how you use it. It depends on, how you use that social media, how you engage with it. Um, you know, and it can be absolutely draining that, you're constantly up all the time looking for these things that sometimes it makes you feel better, sometimes it makes you feel worse. And it's what it does to your mental health that you need to get a handle on. And I need to get a handle on it the same way you do. I don't just tell people what they should do, I also do it myself. You guys know that about me. And so the doom scrolling and the doom surfing continues. And the interesting thing is that before it was just sort of a abstract idea that people kind of started talking about. Wait, I'm about to say way back in 2018. It doesn't seem like it has been that long, but I guess it is. And that it's more mainstream now. I mean, it's in the dictionary. It's in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It started out as words they were watching, and then it named it, and now it's an actual thing in the dictionary. You know, you can actually look up doom scrolling. It's a weird thing, and it's kind of sad that we've gotten to that point. And you know, when you're talking about doom, you know that it's not bad. You know, people relate it to Judgment Day and the end of the world and distraction and ruin. And who wants that? We're trying to take better care of ourselves, you know? And when you overdo it, each swipe through the timeline marks something bad. Whether it's the state of the world or a state of a person or an event, each person watches things kind of get smaller and smaller, and we start feeling really bad. And at the same time, you know, it doesn't have to. Nobody's gonna, I can't make people stop doing it. You have to actually want to. That feeling that you can do it, that you're overwhelmed, that it has no real purpose. And these last few years, and especially these last few months, it's crazy. It's crazy what's going on, you know? And we think that if we keep doing it and we keep looking up a certain topic or we keep feeling a certain way, that eventually it's going to end. But, if you think about this year, we're only in March. This is not a sprint. This is actually going to be a marathon. Trying to sprint to the end of your feed is only going to cause burnout and a decline in your mental health, which, like I said, this is not something we want. People a little more level headed or a little more, you know, that have actual control. And that means that you, amidst all of the pain, the isolation, the destruction that's been going on for the last 2 years almost, it's not worth it to add this extra strain onto your life. That you're up all night and you spend most of the day on Twitter, on Facebook, on some other social network that, that you really need, because you really don't. Limit yourself. I'm actually, limit yourself to what's going on. The average user is online 6 hours a day. And if you're going from online to TV to radio to whatever, you're on even more. And our consumption of media, we feel like we need that for our structure. But then, like I said, we start going down that rabbit hole. And a lot of us do that right before we go to bed. Well, you can't relax, you know? I tell you things that you should do before you go to bed. And I say, do a body scan, do a mental body scan, do, your 4321s, do different things. And instead, we're sitting up and we're still scrolling and we're still looking to see if something happened because we don't want to miss anything. And if you feel like you know what's going on, you know, if you feel like you really need to know what's going on, maybe limit yourself. Limit yourself to maybe an hour of going through current events. And I know that it's hard because right now things are so crazy that's going on, with invasions and this and that. And, you'll be informed if you limit yourself, but it won't be driving you crazy. And that will help you out with your well being and your approach to well being. Maybe at a certain time of the day, turn off notifications. I have a certain time at night that when I switch from maybe my front room to my bedroom, that I turn my phone onto silent. And I've had to get to a point to where I turn off the notifications on my watch because, like I said, even though I may turn off, the notifications on my phone, I'm still getting notified because my watch will buzz. So I've had to start doing that. I pick a certain time and I'm like, I I mentally cannot take in anymore. Your brain can only take in so much information. And if it's taking in bad information or doomy information, especially right before you go to bed, you aren't able to relax. No matter how much breathing you're doing, no matter how much you try to calm yourself down before you go to bed, which I tell you to, it's really hard to do that when you're still scrolling. You know, set those boundaries, you know, set up a time when you can just shut off notifications and not get sucked back in. Think about what would happen if all social media just disappeared. Just disappeared all of a sudden. No more Facebook, no more Twitter, no more any social network. How would you handle that? It's a scary thought now because we're so used to it. When I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. I know it makes me sound really old. We didn't have social media. Social media was, we would watch the news on the TV for a couple hours a night. It was just a thing in our house. Um, but, you know, when we would go to school, we were talking about gossip of other kids. We weren't talking about world events, So now you have all this overwhelming social media. And, if you have a stressful job, so now you're adding another layer onto that stress. So, you know, even if you are going to be online, and I'm not telling you to just cancel all your social media. I honestly don't think I could cancel all my social media. Um, I've thought about it and I've gone for a whole, this sounds really bad, but I have actually, turned everything off for a day. It was the hardest day ever because I'm so ingrained as to what's going on and I kind of felt lost. So it's managing things. It's Give a little, take a little. So even when you are online, try to balance your intake of negative and positive. The idea of searching for good news is a great way of inoculating yourself against doom scrolling. Taking media that contains positive and meaningful and mindful pro social events, because these are going to reduce your anxiety, reduce your sadness, your hopelessness, make it a human interest story, an uplifting video, you know, even something silly. I love sending out videos to friends that I know that are having kind of a hard day or whatever of, jumping baby goats, little baby goats in sweaters jumping around and playing and stuff like that. Um, I love ending the day watching funny YouTube videos or maybe funny TikToks or whatever. And I make sure that even on your TikToks and even on, your YouTube and stuff like that, you can put in classifications. You don't have to put in news. You can put in a category that just says funny. And sometimes it may not be your kind of funny, but a lot of times it's really cute stuff. That's what you want to see. Because, you know, a lot of times doom scrollers find guilt in searching out something that's whimsical or, you know, um, but it's important for your health that you even things out. You know, I when I start posting things of cute animals or silly little goats and sweaters or whatever, I actually get more of that into my feed because the algorithm is slightly changing. You have control over what the algorithms say. When you search out good things, you're inadvertently helping your news feed become more balanced. You know, I was showing my wife pictures of puppies because that's what I do. And I noticed that my newsfeed started giving me more things about puppies. Um, I was watching and looking at some home improvement shows because I really like home improvement shows. And I noticed that I started getting funny, but I started getting things from contractors. But I also started getting stuff from design, and different types of architecture. And it kind of evened out my social media a little bit instead of just having doom and gloom and doom and gloom. And. So know that you actually do have control over, what the algorithms say. Um, and whether it's something goofy, whether it's something inadvertent, um, you know, a lot of times, all you gotta look up is I'm telling you, all you gotta do is look up one goofy thing, just some random goofy thing, and that algorithm will start showing you all kinds of weird, goofy things. I have a combination in my news feed now of the really serious stuff that I tend to, when I start doom scrolling, which gotta work on my mental health, so less doom scrolling. And so every once in a while, I'll just look up something totally random, totally weird and random, because I know I'm going to start getting that more of that into my newsfeed. And it's all about evening out my mental health, evening out how I'm doing, evening those things out, because that's what we truly need to do. And think of it this way, I always tell you that, leave your house. You're allowed to leave your house. Whether a lot of places, the requirements for going outside are kind of loosened up a little bit. So go out, take a walk, you know, take your mask with you in case you need to, but get out, smell the roses, smell the flowers, the wildflowers. We've started having wildflowers grow. I love March. Um, but, you know, when you're out there, if you are listening to music, if you're listening to an audiobook, whatever you're listening to, don't make it the news. Make it your favorite type of music. Listen to an audiobook. You're getting that extra little thing. Listen to a podcast. All my stuff is listed for a podcast too. So if you miss anything, you could go, oh, wonder what Annie Shirley had to say, or the Hypno Fairy Godmother had to say. I have many alter egos. In this case, it is Hypno Fairy Godmother. So, what do I have to say? What do other mental health people have to say? Or maybe you just want something funny. Maybe you're into mysteries. Maybe you're into romances. Maybe you're into kind of sci-fi things. Just something different so that what you're listening to is engaging and it's not, and it's uplifting for your mental health. It's going to make you feel better. I know these things because when I do that, it makes me feel better. So I can tell you when you do it, it makes you feel better. You know, because we have to take note of our mental state. You always have to take note of your mental state. Are you spending too much time? Because you'll notice that not only does your brain start to doom and gloom when you're doing this, but you'll notice that your shoulders will go up maybe, and you'll start to slink down a little bit, and your whole demeanor will kind of shrink down because your body's in that fight or flight. And you just start shrinking down as opposed to when you start, doing positive things, baby goats, puppies, kitties, whatever. Um, you start to feel a little more relaxed. And so your shoulders go down and your neck pops back up again. And you start sitting up a little more straight and you feel more engaged with people. And that's the difference between positive mental health and negative mental health. You know, um, like I said, there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of audiobooks out there. Go out. Go find a wonderful place to walk in maybe a park or like I love going to the water or a trail or whatever and listen. I mean, I like to do the 4-3-2-1. And the funny thing is that I teach the 4-3-2-1, which I'm about to go over, but I teach that in times of heavy stress. In times of heavy stress, it's a way to use mindfulness to connect yourself. But let's say you go out for a walk, whether it's in your neighborhood, on a trail, by the water, or wherever you may be. And even when you're not in a time of heavy stress, try this 4-3-2-1. Look around and do 4 things you can see. You're outside. There are 4 things that you can see. And then 3 things that you could touch right away. Look around. 3 things you can touch. 2 things that you can hear. What can you hear? Can you hear birds? Can you hear animals? Even if you hear traffic, can you hear the wind blowing? Can you hear water rolling? What is it that you can hear? And then tell yourself one thing that you absolutely know. A fact. A good fact. My favorite story is I asked a client, now tell me one thing that you absolutely know. And he goes, I absolutely know that right now I'm incredible. And I'm like, perfect. I want you to put that on a Post-it note. Put it in every room. I want you to make a little note of it. Put it on your rearview mirror so that when you look in your rearview mirror, what you're going to see there is I am incredible. Or I'm amazing. Or whatever it is. Put these things in places where it will remind you these happy thoughts, these affirmations. So you don't always have to use the things that I tell you in times of crisis. You can just use them in times that you're feeling good to reconnect yourself. We need to reconnect ourselves with the outside, reconnect ourselves with the earth. You get where I'm coming on this, which is always good. But then you always want to check in with yourself. Remember, the best thing you can do is whether you're walking around outside and you're feeling calm, whether you're a little more stressed out, now that you're not doom scrolling quite as much, and you just ask yourself, how am I doing right now? How am I doing? You're checking in with yourself, and be honest. I actually asked somebody that, and I said, when you ask yourself, how are you doing? They said, sometimes I lie to myself. What? This isn't a test. This isn't something against you. It's just, how am I doing right now? Well, let me tell you, be honest with yourself. If it's bad, you're having a bad day. You're allowed to have a bad day. Even if we're going through some mental health thing, it's never going to be all rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes you're just having a really bad day, and that's okay to acknowledge that. But don't compound it. Just acknowledge it. Do your wonderful deep breathing. Notice how that breathing affects your whole body. Notice how your heart slows down. Notice that your shoulders go down. Notice that you're starting to feel better. This is one of those things that if you are having some kind of panic attack, that you want to know how to do and you want to know how to use. But this is also something that you can do when you're taking a walk. You know, Sometimes when I'm walking on the beach or I'm walking on a trail by the water, sometimes I'll just check in with myself. How am I doing right now? Um, and sometimes I'm doing great. A lot of times I'm doing great because that's one of my favorite places. But sometimes I go, "How you doing?" And my brain goes, "Ugh, not having a good day." And so I know what I need to do, but I don't want to compound it by listening to horrible news. You know, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta, don't if you feel yourself starting to slide. That's okay. You're aware of it. You know what's happening. But take care of you. Take care of the wonderfulness that's you first. Check in with yourself. Do your self compassion pause. Give yourself a hug. Give somebody else a hug. Smile. Especially if you're outside and you're in a place where masks aren't required and you feel comfortable that way, you can actually start smiling at people. I kind of miss that. I kind of miss that being able to smile at people. And sometimes they just look at you like, what are you smiling at me for? I just, I love to do it because a lot of times, I mean, honestly, I have crazy hair. I wear crazy glasses. Sometimes I look a little off center, but I love that about me. And I love that sometimes I can make people smile just by smiling back at them. And you can change your whole intention. You can change somebody's day. But it's about your mental health. It's about taking care of you. It's about not compounding bad after bad after bad. Change your personal algorithm. Not only change your social media, change your personal algorithm. At least once or twice a day, check in with yourself. Set a certain time and go, okay, at this particular time, I just have to stop. No more messages. Get offline. Put the phone down. Check out funny stuff or, you know, watch some crazy show on Netflix that you've been dying to watch or whatever it is. Something that you can relax. Something that you can slow your breathing down and you can take care of you. Okay, and know that I put these things out for you so that it can help it can help you, it can take care of you. you know Always take care of yourself, always ask yourself how you're doing, and if you're starting to slide, get some help. I will always answer all of my text messages. I will always answer all of my emails. um if you need a consultation and you need somebody to talk to, I'm there. And you should always know that, your hypno fairy godmother is there for you. And if I can make you smile or I can make you laugh, it's all better. That's great for mental health. I'm definitely not one of those stodgy mental health people that are like, tell me all your problems. I do say that, but then we try to find a way together. So, I want you to just know that I want to thank you for listening today. And it's been my pleasure to be even a small part of your journey. And I hope that it's been calming, a little bit calming, a little bit soothing, a little bit funny, you know. But mostly, I hope that wherever you are, you're a little closer to leaving to that person that you really want to be. So, besides being the hypnotherapy godmother, I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist, activist, and mental health first responder with Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy and Wellness. And I love to work with my clients. And maybe you can become one of my clients, because we work as a team to find the best way to get you feeling back to being you. And there's no fear or anxiety about it. And the nice thing is that I work online. So any type of social media, but working online, I can be there with you wherever you are. It's a great way to connect. And I understand that hypnosis isn't for everybody, and that's fine. But maybe we can work together so that you can feel a little bit better about how things are going. So, again, I am Shirley, your hypnofairy godmother, clinical hypnotherapist. And if you want to book a consultation, you can always do that on whisperingzenhypnotherapy.com or whisperingzen.net, either one. And it has been my sincere pleasure, my sincere, real pleasure to help you out today and to be there with you. So let's take one more wonderful deep breath, hold it, exhale with a smile, and hold that with you in your heart. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And tell your friends about the show because I am here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. So, and I know for a fact that I will see you next week. So hang in there, my love, and have a smile on